Okay, welcome back, guys. Yeah, we had a small technical issue at the end of the Watto and Henry match, but we've sorted it out. So yeah, the fun and entertainment will continue. We are back here for the second match between Daniel and Craig. Craig, of course, winning the first one really quickly, so Daniel will have to try to bounce back to get onto the scoreboard. Yeah, and of course, we've got a new commentator. Thanks for joining International Master David Gluckman. Welcome, David.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
It's great to have you on board. David, of course, has played with us in our first gathering of PC30, and it seems like he's also quite uh, keen to use these dragon bishops. So we're quite happy to have David on board. So yeah, guys, the board that you're seeing is the last position we had in the previous game. Watto and Henry, of course, playing it out till the end. We saw a long end game, interesting stuff, and we are just going to generate a new position. So let's reset the clock. It's 15 minutes aside with a 15-second increment. Let's repack the board, and then let's just regenerate the position again, just in case. And there we have it. We've got the two dragons next to each other and the two knights next to each other. And yeah, just from the player's side, if you do see a position that you have played before, just let me know. We'd like to keep it a fresh position, at least from the same color. You don't want to play the same position with the same color as well. So yeah, I think we should continue. We are a bit late on the schedule, so Daniel and Craig, as soon as you guys are ready, you guys can mute yourselves. Make sure you don't hear us on Zoom. And Daniel, then when you're ready, you can start. Okay, so we have liftoff. David, pawn to e4 played. And yeah, we saw Barrish in trouble in the first game, trying to get his queen, make space for his queen. The queens were also in the corner like that, but his queen ended up being trapped, and then the dragon tactics took flame. So, but tell me from your experience, David, what can you, if you maybe tell us what are the pointers or what's the guidelines that you would tell the viewers out there? What should you be doing in the beginning phase of this game?
Um, yeah, look, I must say I don't remember all the intricacies because I only played that one day.
Yeah.
But I think it's very difficult to figure out an opening strategy when you just get an opening position put in front of you. So to me, it's just the normal principles of develop, take the center.
Yes.
I think you've got to think of how you want to develop your dragons specifically.
Yes.
Uh, so, for example, like c5 is, yeah, it lets that c8 dragon start to possibly develop, and maybe this one you've got to think of how you're going to develop the queen. So the c5 also opens at the queen diagonal. But I think with dragons, you've got to be very careful about bringing out the queen too quickly. It can really get chased around. So
yes, indeed.
But I don't know. To me, it's very much guesswork at the opening phase.
Yeah, no, this is new for us all. We mentioned it in the previous tournament. It's kind of like we're in the romantic era again. So it's new to us all. But I think you're on the spot there with the basic chess principles coming into play. And of course, I think it's very important. I also tried to add some principles like just like you shouldn't get your queen out too early in this case. You mustn't expose your dragon bishops too much, I guess, because they're also valuable. But we're learning along the way. But I think it's also important. We've mentioned in the previous match with Lance as well. You should plan how to get out your dragon bishops, like you said, and plan out where you want to put your knights. So it's a lot of planning, and that's why a lot of the female players in the Four Queens tournament took a lot of time to actually figure things out in the open.
What I would say actually on that is I don't think practically it's worth taking the time because you're probably not going to be able to figure it out. Whatever you do, something different will get played. So I actually think the better strategy is just to play quickly in the opening.
Okay. So what do we have here? Black has got no pawns in the center. White has got e4 and d4. And black has just played the knight to f6, I believe. No, knight to g6. But an interesting strategy there, David, that you mentioned. Maybe you should just get it on with and then later on use the time.
Yeah, but White, okay, so White has kept his dragons at the back, but they really got lots of options of where to go to. So, I don't know. It's difficult to say, but possibly I like White, but maybe I don't understand the positions that well.
Yeah, we're always trying to get to grips with what's happening. But I've seen also a trend, especially closer to the end of the female tournament, that the setup with C3 and F3 and just trying to bolster the center is a very popular setup that they've used.
Yes.
That one, and then the other one also trying to get your knight in the center with maybe a pawn break with D4 and knight takes D4 or E4 and knight takes E4, stuff like that.
Well, what I think as well, and I don't think it just goes for this variation. It's like going back all the MRL paradigm tournaments with Fischer random and different variations of it.
Yeah.
If you don't have positions that you're that familiar with, it's easy to make a mistake. So to me, it's better to get a big center because the chances are the one with the less space is more likely to make some tactical error.
Yes.
Or the tactical error will be punished, let's put it that way. So I think it's practically a good strategy to try get space. But of course, your center can also get undermined. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. So and it seems like Craig is playing some Dragon Bishop Alekine opening. So I don't know. You also like the Alekine, David. So maybe this is doable for Craig. And Craig, of course, got a lot of experience in it. He's the co-founder of this variant. So maybe he knows what he's doing. Maybe not. Okay. But Daniel does, of course, in his normal chess games also like space.
For what? Yeah. Like, I would think for White, like an Alpha Zero type of H4, H5, H6 is something
that seems quite cool, yeah.
I would think about immediately, yeah.
Especially because those Dragon Bishops are not even on the king side and they're not available to defend, so seems quite cool.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, where's Black going to put his king, I guess? And it won't be so easy to castle queenside. I don't think it'll be possible with the open C file. So probably has to go to the king side at some stage.
Yeah. Dragon to B3 is played though. David, can you confirm that we are live and everything on Dragon?
I'm having a bit of a delay now.
Yeah, there should be a bit of a delay, but Dragon to B3.
I've got to D5, but I haven't got White's next move yet.
So the pawn structure I see is pawn on E5, the pawn on D4, and the knight is on D5, and Dragon Bishop to B3 was played.
Okay. Yeah. Now that one I'm not so sure about, because I think you lose some options of playing it to the king side.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. I would have preferred the H4, H5 idea. I mean, the bishop might be good on B3, but, Black can play Dragon B6 and defend the knight. So it seems, I think White gave up some options there, maybe.
Perhaps, yes. And to the viewers out there, maybe give a shout in the chat box so that we are sure everything is working perfectly. But yeah, that's interesting, David. Maybe early on, Barrish committing the dragon to the queen side. I guess he can still swing it around, but H4, H5 did look very interesting indeed. Pawn to E6 has been played right now. And yeah, thanks Bungie in the chat box says all good, so we're running. And just a reminder, yeah, David, that the live feed to everybody will be 5 or 6 seconds delayed. So yeah. Pawn to E6, and Barrish has just challenged the knight on D5 with knight to E3. So it looks like a type of an elephant structure now with the Sicilian.
Yeah. Mm.
But yeah, of course, I definitely prefer white here with all the space. And something interesting, I think that Henry mentioned while he was commentating in the last tournament, David, he was saying that maybe when it's when the position is more closer to a normal chess position, then it's easier on black, because then you can kind of just go through the motion and get your pieces out in the castle. But when it's such a random position, then it tends to be a bit more heavy on mistakes. So like in
Yes.
this case, like black already has a lot less space, and he needs to maybe figure things out a bit more seriously than white.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, how is he going to develop that? Well, okay, I guess he can develop it quite easily, the dragon on d8 tiles. But
Yeah.
I must say, I find it quite confusing playing, because it's so easy to kind of miss tactics that you're so used to, like a bishop moving in a normal way, or like a common mistake I was making quite a few times.
Yeah.
Is assuming the dragon can go first diagonal and then straight,
Yes.
as opposed to, it's quite confusing, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely something that the viewers must just take note of if you are tuning in for the first time or getting used to the variant. The dragon bishop can only go straight first, one square straight, and then one square diagonally. So just like David mentioned, don't make the mistake of thinking it can go diagonally first and then straight. There are some limitations to these guys. Let's see, who can we? Yeah, for instance, the looks like the dragon bishops are pretty much free to move around in this position. We'll get to a point where I'll make an example.
I'll give you an example of that one. I remember from the tournament, we are against Barrish, we are misanalyzed. So basically, it was something like a king on h8 with pawns on h7 and g7.
Yeah.
And I assumed dragon to f7 would be mates.
Yes.
I was analyzing the variation, but it wouldn't be, because you've got to go diagonal and then sideways.
Yeah, nice example.
So I avoided a whole variation based on there would be a mate in between, but it was a mirage.
Yes. So we're gonna see some examples of that, but yeah, that is one of the most basic examples or typical mistakes you can make. So well put there, David. And the people's
the people's patzer one is asking how much points is the bishop or the dragon. That's
a good question. I've given my opinion, but I mean, there's only an opinion, David. I said something like obviously depending on the position, as the position opens up, the bishop becomes stronger. But I said between 6 and 7 points, perhaps. That's what I said. So I gave a definition like 6.5. But what would you say?
It could be. It's difficult. Look, I mean, these whole points things are a bit.
A bit rigid, but
normal chess a bit subjective. That they will change according to the position, and obviously you've got to remember. Often in the end game, there's the possibility to transpose to normal chess as well. So then it'll go back to 3.
Yes.
So I don't know. I would probably say less than 6.5. But the other one, I think the other issue is, I think the queen is worth less than 9 in this, because you can't really bring it out too much. It really can be chased around quite a lot. So I don't think it's just a matter of like the pieces all keep their normal value.
That's actually quite true. That's quite interesting, because even Bungie here in the chat box is saying the dragon's 6 points, but the knights all of a sudden are 4 points. So the knight has increased, Bungie says. So very interesting. And you saying now the queen also could be worth less. But by the way, dragon to h4 check by Craig was played. And Daniel didn't play pawn to g3. I'm wondering why not. He played king f1.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's thinking that, like, you've got to be careful about opening up squares near your king. There can be lots of tactics later, and I think that's why Craig's got a lot of experience. He's probably got the most experience of all the players here. that's probably why he gives the check. To force either you open up the king. I don't think giving up castling is such a big issue, but the king is more vulnerable now. So I actually think black has made a bit of headway from the position we were talking about earlier.
Definitely. And by the way, Bungie has also just pointed out we missed a tactic, David. After pawn to g3, then dragon to g2. I saw the check, but I forgot that the rook was hanging. So
Yes,
g3, dragon g2 is just a
example.
4.
Okay. Now Craig would know that type of thing because he's played so he would know all those tactics.
And on the other hand, the f5 square is also now weak, pretty weak, because both black dragon bishops are looking at f5. So black can just play dragon f5, hit the queen. So maybe a move like queen c7, threatening dragon to f5 could be very dangerous. But white can still block with dragon to d3. I missed that one.
Yeah.
So black played pawn takes e5. It's getting tense here. But it definitely seems like black is doing good now. He can freely castle.
Check on a4, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe just b5. I'm not sure. Maybe.
So what should white do here? White can play knight f3. No, if he plays knight f3, then dragon f5. Yeah. Bungie also said dragon a4 check, but b5 would stop that idea.
This is actually like what you said. This dragon f5. Okay, you actually got to clarify which dragon, I guess, but I'm sure you mean the c8 dragon.
Yeah, probably.
But, it's actually another example of a thing that's easy to miss. It's easy to miss that the dragon can go backwards as well. The h4 one to protect f5.
Yes, indeed. The backward dragon moves are so easy to miss. So I think black is doing excellent here. I mean, black and castle.
Yeah. And I actually think it actually white started to go wrong with this dragon to b3. It doesn't really do much. And even if maybe on the value of the pieces, like even if he takes on d5 eventually, I don't think a pawn is worth that much in these positions at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, it could later on in the end game,
but we don't reach a lot of end games. So
you're probably not going to reach the end game. Yeah. Especially, because the players worst will know not to go to the end game. So black is considerably better, because he's got these active dragons and his king can get to safety on the king side with 3 pawns shielding. So I think black's got a clear advantage.
Yeah, and by the way, Dodgy is asking, I missed the definition of dragon. So they are dragon bishops, Dodgy. How do they move? So they move like normal bishops, but they can also move like the Chinese chess horse or the Chinese chess knight, which is one square straight and one square diagonally. So once you have completed the move, it looks like a knight move, but you have to always keep in mind it cannot go diagonally first and then straight. It has to go straight and then diagonally. For instance, the dragon bishop on b3, he can go, okay, he went to c2 now, but he could have, okay, let's make another example. So the dragon bishop on f5, he can go dragon to e3 because he goes to f4 and e3 like that, but he cannot capture the pawn on d4 because the e5 pawn is in the way. So he has to go one straight and one diagonally. That's how the dragon bishops work. They can't jump over anything. That's the limitation. Yes, the dragon can pin like a normal piece and like a knight in a way. So watch out for those dragon tactics. It's very confusing if it's new to you, but just hold on to your seat, Dodgy. We will see some of this. We saw a dragon pin in the previous game, but I'll keep you up to date.
So you can't take on f5 because the dragon on h4 takes back and then the queen is lost, I guess.
Can't you go dragon to d3 then?
Now, yes, possibly.
No, instead of that, takes on f5, dragon takes f5, and then dragon d3.
Oh, the other dragon to d3. Yes. Sorry,
So that's the maybe something, but it seems uncomfortable for white.
Maybe at least to consider instead of dragon c2 to just go knight f3, threatening the dragon, and if it's 6.5 and you give up the queen on b1, is that so serious? You've got 2 dragons.
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
F3 threatening the dragon on h4. you got the pawn on d5 threatened. I think it was worth consideration, actually.
Yeah.
You know, you
Bungie
say
says,
queen is very, yeah.
sorry, David. Bungie says here that after takes on f5, dragon d3, perhaps dragon to e3 check will cause some problems. You think the king and the d4 pawn will be loose? Yeah, there's lots of dragon tactics in the air here, and the white king on f1 is definitely not smiling.
Yeah. I think what Barrish actually needs to do, but I don't think it's so easy for him to do, is
Yeah,
to exchange the dragons as much as he can, because
yeah,
if he can get to a normal position, that's probably his best strategy against Craig,
yeah.
actually.
And in fact, Boom Shaka has come up with an interesting suggestion. She says dragon to e3, dragon 1 to e3 would have been interesting, because then you're also initiating some exchanges, trying to force some exchanges actually. But instead, Daniel has played dragon on c2 to d3. And isn't okay, so the pawn on d4 is not hanging, just to dodgy over there again. I'll just emphasize this, that the dragon on f5 cannot capture the dragon bishop on f5 cannot capture the pawn on d4 because the e5 pawn is in the way. It has to go straight first and then diagonally. So, but of course, David, white is now hoping to get this knight f3 move in just to score a
But
tempo.
hang on, what about dragon on f5 just to g3 check?
Well, no, it won't be check. The g2 pawn is in the way.
The g2 pawn is in the way. Otherwise, it would be
Yeah.
mate. Because I was looking h takes
Oh,
g3,
you.
dragon takes g3,
Yeah.
mate. That's
Yeah.
another example of.
That would be very dangerous, yeah. But I guess in
Yeah,
this, that's a nice example where we see again the limitations. The dragon bishop is very strong, but it has its limitations. There's always something that could be in its way. So yeah, that's also a nice example over there. Dragon to d3 won't. That dragon to g3 won't be checked because the g2 pawn will be in the way.
but it is just threatening to take the rook on h1, I guess, is the other.
Not at all, because the g2 pawn is also still in the way for that direction as
Oh,
well.
yeah, sorry, you're right. Sorry, I'm thinking
Yeah.
it's an art again. Yeah.
The People's Patser says that, so if the bishop's off both sides of the board, this would be a normal chess game? Yes, indeed. We have seen 1 or 2 normal chess games occur. So if the bishops come off, then a normal chess position, chess game
Barry
happens.
should definitely like to do that. If he can get to that, that'll be a big win for him. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other nice thing about this variant. You can sometimes, it's still very much linked to the normal game in certain aspects. And you can, of course, play it on a normal chessboard. You can use normal bishops. Lorenzo always suggests just use a red ribbon and tie it around the bishops to make it seem like dragon bishops. But if you can remember that they're dragon bishops, then yeah, you basically just need a normal chess set.
Yeah.
So yeah, Boomshaka said, couldn't white just play dragon takes dragon and then followed by dragon d3? Yeah, that was a possibility, but then black could perhaps play dragon e3 check and then take on d4. Black has just castled. Black very comfortable. I'm expecting knight f3 here. And of course, Daniel is under pressure here because he didn't start the tournament off well. And he needs to just get something from this game in order to at least feel confident enough to give a good result. I mean, it's still lots of opportunities, but psychologically, chess is so important to be psychologically strong and start off well.
Yeah. So if knight to f3, then obviously the one tactic would be queen takes c1. When queen takes c1 would be met by bishop, dragon takes d3.
Okay.
Check, queen.
Wow.
But he wants queen takes c1. I guess he'll go dragon back takes c1 and stay in the game.
Just some exchanges that happen, yeah. Yeah, sure. But there's so many. I mean, it's just all about the dragon tactics. If you can manage to, this is what it's all about, guys. It's just about getting used to these dragon tactics. If you can do that, then you'll be a lot safer on the board.
Yeah, see, Black's king is so safe compared to White's. This is the issue here. He needs to exchange those dragons. I mean, Black would think about f6 here, bringing the rook into the game as well, but I
Yeah,
guess White would have to then sacrifice a pawn by going e6 just to not
that's
allow the file to be open.
yeah. Boomshak also suggested knight e2 instead of knight f3, just covering the f4 square, but Banjo also suggested f6. But I like knight f3 because it's scoring a tempo.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just how does white get his king to safety now? Is he gonna play king f2 after the h4 one moves?
Yeah. I mean, knight f3 to me, it's the same principle as normal chess. Eh? The knight
Yes,
is normally better on f3 than e2. You just got more space. It's
yes.
controlling more simple squares. But yeah, it's attacking a dragon as well.
And the dragon had to move to a square where it's defending its fellow dragon bishop on f5. And Craig finds a nice defensive move, backward move. Dragon h4 to e7, still defending on f5 because there was some pressure on the f5 dragon. So I kind of missed that. These backward dragon moves, again, it's difficult to spot. I was thinking black had to take on d3, but then white would take on d3 and control f5. But a nice backward move by black. Should white maybe go dragon takes f5 and then dragon d3? Just trying to get them off. What now?
I think yes. I would say if that works, this should, because I do think it just goes back to this point. If Daniel can get a normal position, that will favor him.
Yeah, but now the thing is, let's imagine takes on f5, dragon takes f5, dragon d3, and black captures on d3, queen takes d3, and then knight f4. And then with the king on f1 and the queen on d3, the queen has to move, and queen c4 check potentially there. It's not easy to convert into this position without dangers. And on top of that, there's still this dragon e3 check instead of
Yes,
swapping on d3.
yes. I think Craig would probably go for that rather than swap. But
But lots of complications. Okay, but the
but
knight
I
on
guess
f3 is at least defending d4.
yeah, and I guess when the knight comes to f4, the queen can go to c3 just to win a tempo.
Yeah. Then queen f5 or
Once you're
something.
in the normal position, you can chase the knight back with g3.
Yeah,
And then if the king can get to d2, then white will be perfectly fine.
yeah. But instead, Daniel goes for your idea. Probably 10 moves later, David, he goes h4 finally. Is this? It doesn't feel right here. It doesn't
It
feel
doesn't
right.
feel right to me either because
It's just
now
opening
the
up more
king
squares.
more squares in front of the king. I mean, already the dragon can go to g3.
D3 safely now, yes. Even though it won't be a check or a fork, but still,
Oh,
just
you're right.
allowing
Won't be a
that.
check again.
Just
Okay.
allowing that doesn't seem nice because the king will be in a bit of a noose.
And as also Craig, as I said, I'm sure will not want to exchange dragons, so
Yeah,
it's given out. But okay, there's h5 coming, I guess.
yeah.
Still got to worry about h7. So
Interesting play. It's a fight, definitely. Boom Shaka was saying king f2 to artificial castle was an idea, but it's one just tends to feel like it's a bit too slow. So yeah, why Daniel's still hustling here to get himself into at least a normal looking position. But okay, h4 says something else. H4 says h5 coming up. Where does the knight on g6 go? And there's still a fight for the f5 square at the end of the day. And we see this tactic happening, David. You'll see it in a couple of seconds, but we see this tactic. Queen takes dragon on c1 check.
always in the air. I
And
think he must take that dragon, I would
Daniel
say.
took back with the dragon immediately. Dragon takes queen on b1. And you'll see rook takes b1 in a moment. So it seems like black is going to take the open file soon. Ooh, he doesn't do that immediately. He's going for dragon to f5. And he scores another nice tempo over there. Okay, so Daniel almost played rook a1, but it seems like he's now what about dragon to d2? Because remember, the dragon bishop is still more important than the rook in a lot of cases. So instead of playing rook a1, dragon to d2 at least looks more natural. And if dragon bishop to d3, at least you're limiting that dragon bishop to make Zhangyi knight moves.
Yeah, I agree with that. You must develop this dragon. Rook a1 would be a mistake.
Yeah. But still, that check on d3 is irritating. You can't go f2, you can't go e2, you don't want to go e1. You're going to have to go g1 and then rook c8, threatening rook c2 again. I got a feeling that white is in trouble here. But okay, white maybe has this knight e1 move, but it just looks... I got a feeling that, yeah, white is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, also if dragon d2, I guess the other tactic is you can start moving knight to f4 already, if you wanted to.
Yes.
Get that in the game. But okay, I still think it's better than rook a1, actually.
Yeah.
They're going wrong.
Okay, and Craig quickly plays rook ac8, now scoring another tempo because you don't want to allow rook takes dragon bishop. The People's Patser says, if the bishop is so strong, why doesn't black play queen takes c1? Yeah, okay, thanks People's Patser. We only saw that comment now. That is what happened. But yeah, Daniel could play dragon takes c1 in that case. Bishop moved like a knight, lol. Yes, that is the thing, People's Patser. That's why they're called dragon bishops. They move like knights and like bishops. Not exactly like a knight, like I've explained earlier on. They move like the Chinese chess horse. One straight, one diagonally. If you guys want to see more and learn more about this game, there is a couple of YouTube lectures or clips on my YouTube channel. Just go onto YouTube and search Calvin Class and Chess. Check it out over there. And there's one introductory video with myself interviewing the two co-founders. That's of course Craig and Lorenzo. So there they explain how everything works. And we've got 2 videos already with Daniel Barrish and with Henry Steele showing some of their games also in this variant. So you can go onto YouTube and check out more of this, guys. But feel free to ask more questions.
Yeah, but I think dragon takes c1 is on rook takes c1 is on the cards if white allows it.
Definitely. So,
and the other one for black is maybe just f6. It is a bit easier now without queens on to open up the f file, but I'm not convinced white would want to. And
yeah,
if it takes so you might have to think about giving up the pawn with e6, or if he takes on f6. Rook takes f6, then the rook can come across to c file or a file. Lots of options for black.
Very, very good looking for black. Bungie was suggesting dragon to b3, hitting d5 as well. I don't think there's any time to really grab on d5, opening up more lines, but it is an idea. I think dragon bishop to d3 check will still be very tough to handle with b2 also hanging. The People's Patser says, I would love to learn more about this. I'll go on YouTube after this match. Yeah, you're welcome, People's Patser. Yeah, you can just go check it out there. Or everything is there for you to see.
I think the bigger problem with dragon to b3 is just it allows knight f4 straight away, defending d5, and then the knight's in there as well.
Yes. But yeah,
I think time trouble. I wouldn't fancy Daniel in time trouble. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's getting gloomy here for Daniel.
Like 2 minutes, if I'm looking at the advantage with a worse position, is very difficult to play. Especially Craig knows tactics very well. Yeah, he's played a lot of this.
Dragon to e2 played. We've considered b3 and e3, but Daniel eventually playing dragon to e2. So I think he was worried about that dragon to d3 check. It also kind of stops if black goes dragon to e3. It's not check yet. But I think black can also play something like rook c2 now, David. Just
possibly.
Threatening rook takes dragon.
Knight f4, but I think rook c2 is the worry now. What do you do against that?
Rook c2, double up, and black is just at the position plays itself.
Worry about rook takes dragon, simply.
Yeah.
Because a dragon is certainly stronger than a rook, and certainly stronger in time trouble.
Yeah.
Much stronger.
Sure.
So, I don't think he can allow dragon takes e2. I think it would be practically almost impossible to defend.
Yeah. I mean, okay, dragon to d1 was now played.
Yeah,
And
he
that
doesn't have
dragon
to
on,
worry about that rook. He can bring the other rook to c8, no
yes,
worries.
yes.
And then he's threatening rook c1.
And if the king is even thinking about going to g1 and h2, black can always play dragon to g3, and then that king is so boxed in.
He'll definitely play rook. He'll play rook c8, f to c8. Yeah, I'm positive.
Yeah.
I'll be. It's basically. Well, rook c1 after that would force off the exchange of dragon.
Yes.
Go to endgame with dragon versus rook, which I saw a few times is definitely stronger for the one with the dragon.
Yeah. So rook fc8 was eventually played. Craig is on 3 minutes 47 seconds. Daniel is on just below 2 minutes. So Daniel is really under pressure here to just stay in the game. And Bungie is suggesting knight to e1, Karpov, in Karpov style. Yeah, it's going to take a lot here to hold on. If you play knight e1, it might seem like white is starting to pack the board for the next position, David.
Yeah. No, it's looking bleak here for what. I think what, and look, Daniel's a very strong player, but time trouble is not actually a strong point as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a 90-10 at this stage.
Yeah. Agreed. And welcome to Kitonsky in the chat box. Welcome. You're not so late. This is match 3 of the day. There's 6 matches for the day. So yeah, results thus far, guys. I'll update it during the break. We've had a bit of a hectic schedule with some hiccups technically. So when we have our break after the next match, then I'll update the score table. But yeah, thus far, Craig has won the first game against Daniel with reverse colors, and then the next game was drawn by Watu and Henry, and this is match 3. We're getting close to the end in this one.
I just like rook c1. We almost took on b2, but the dragon is defending.
Yeah, defending it.
Looked me.
So black playing rook d2 instead. Maybe, what is his idea here? He wants to take on d4.
Sure, I like rook c1 because
rook c1 looked nice, yeah.
Rooks, you have to move the dragon, then you got the knight, or dragon comes in, the knight is pinned on e1.
Everything, yeah. The rook c1 did look very nice.
It looked like some of his movement. Maybe he was just playing around. It looked like he was thinking of dragon. The rook takes b2, which the dragon defends.
Yeah. Bungie says checkmate coming up. So maybe he wants to keep the rook on the second rank to just cut the king off. Dragon to e3 check. Then David, dragon to e3 check would almost be checkmate. You're gonna have to put a piece on e2.
Yeah. Now you see, what we see now here is the grave danger of opening the pawns in front of your king.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah.
The moment we saw that in the opening, it was clear that, look, black has got nothing to worry about here for his king. White has got to worry tactics all the time, and he's got hardly any time. So practically, it's almost impossible to play.
Yeah, I think those 2 moves, f4 and h4, really doing damage there long term.
I think what Craig knew is this bishop h4 is a good move to create weaknesses. He probably knows this strategy.
I think I've seen it once or twice as well, and I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that it is actually usually a good idea.
It's probably not an unusual thing. Okay, now he will never take the rook on h3. That I can say.
Yeah. Okay, he's got the option of taking the dragon on d1 already if he wants to.
Yeah,
he's got options.
Okay, knight f4 is not so fantastic, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, Daniel is now basically getting tortured here, just waiting to see what is coming his way. But of course, that's the thing about these guys. They always wait and force the opponent to come up with a final blow.
It's a good move, though. I think it's his
I like
best
it.
shot.
I like it, yeah.
Defending lots of squares on the third rank.
Yes. Daniel very tenacious, of course, in general in chess. So I like that move.
How much time has he got left? Am I seeing it right? Has he got 3 seconds?
He's got 3 seconds, but this increment kicks in after you get your turn to play again. So Daniel technically has 18 seconds left.
Okay.
So it's a bit backwards with this increment. Craig has now gone down to about 2 minutes. So he's just trying to calculate the best route forward. Rook takes dragon, bishop on d1 is possible. What else could he be thinking of? Knight f4, does that meet rook f3 perhaps?
You've also just got the simple option of rook takes d4 if he really wants as well.
And then just
knight is
everything
coming on
collapses.
e5. He can still take the dragon on d1.
Yeah, I like that one actually. After rook takes d4, white just has nothing to play for.
There's rook h4 and rook f4 ideas, and all come into the picture.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's tempted to take on d1 because probably he knows practically it's very difficult.
Yes.
Once you get rid of that dragon.
Yeah, I guess that's the main difficulty for black here, just choosing between the nice options. So yeah, Craig, going down to a minute, just pondering, maybe trying to secure. And the rook takes dragon bishop played. He decides to cash in with the dragon bishop.
Yeah, the problem with dragon e3 is the rook is defending e3. That's what Bungie says.
Yes, that's indeed the case. That's why rook h3 was played. Magnus Carlsen, Greg says, hi all, welcome Magnus Carlsen, Greg 1. We at the end of match 3. We've got 6 matches for the day, guys. We will have one more after this match 4, and then we have an hour break, and then we will do the last 2. So welcome everybody if you've just tuned in. If you're watching and you can't type in the chat box, if you feel like chatting with us, asking us questions, and just giving us some ideas yourself, just press the follow button, and yeah, then you can join us. If you can't press the follow button, which is usually the purple heart, then just make sure that you've signed up to Twitch. It's either at the top or at the homepage. You must just sign up. It's free, it's quick, it's easy, and then you can join us. Come back and press the follow button, and then join us in the chat box. Dragon to g4 played, and Barrish has now replied with knight to f3, and it just feels like Craig didn't get the most out of it.
I think he should have taken on d4, then e5 would have collapsed.
Yeah.
And he could have always done the dragon, take the dragon on d1 one move later.
Yeah. But of course, the dragon bishop is still a dragon bishop.
He's still got a big advantage. Yeah. But I think he's allowed a bit more play. Probably rook d2, I guess. Yeah.
Rook d2. Daniel flinched there and instead played the rook to e1. What was wrong with the rook d2? Something bothered him about the rook d2. But now isn't rook takes b2 just possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, white has got no threats. That's that's still the issue. That black, as long as he watches a back rank mate or something like that, he's got no worries for his king.
There was a tactic here that Bungie is saying dragon to e3 check after rook d2. It's check and then more problems there. Pawn to h6 played instead.
That's so serious because he wouldn't want to go dragon takes d2 anyway, I guess.
Yeah, and white could have still played king e2 or something.
King e2 threatening the dragon.
Yeah.
That's so serious. It might be in trouble. You would definitely have. The problem is it takes you longer to calculate tactics in this game because, you're used to normal chess, you're used to many tactics, but they don't just work in here. So you have to. Time travel is a bit harder. You have to take a few more seconds just to concentrate and make sure there's no unusual tactic.
Yes. And the rook on h3 was hitting the dragon bishop on g4, but move after move, black has now found a tempo to hit the rook, and the rook has...
I would even be tempted, for white. Okay, he didn't do it. Just play something like e6 and then knight e5 and try to get some counterplay.
Get just something going, yeah.
A pawn is nothing.
Yeah. But now black is really poised. All of his pieces are super active.
He should have played e6. He should have played e6. He would have had some counterplay possibilities, I'm sure. And left the dragon on g3. The rook on g3. This doesn't look right, the rook on h2.
To Boom Shaka, yes, I will be updating the cross table probably after match 4 because we are already behind schedule and we will need to get the next match going. So when we have our hour break, then I'll update the scores. But verbally, Craig has won the first match. Daniel, Watu and Henry has drawn their first match, which is match 2, and this is match 3. So after match 4, we will update the score table. Thanks for asking. Dragon to f2, and yeah, that's not nice. That's definitely not the conversation the king on f1 wants to have.
So we're not going to go for a perpetual check with dragon to d3, king to g1, dragon to f2.
And it's happened now again, and maybe black is going to decide something else now.
I'm sure he won't go for that. And I'm sure he won't take the dragon on e1 either.
Again, dragon to f2 check, king f1. Where's the dragon going this time? Or maybe just rook takes b2. But okay, I guess Craig was doing that to gain some time on the clock, because I see he's now lower than Daniel on the clock. Finally, he breaks the repetition, and he just played knight to h5, threatening mate in 1, knight to g3. Is rook e2 perhaps a possibility? Yeah.
Doesn't he have to do that? Huh?
Seems like it. Because then you can at least threaten king takes dragon on f2. So a swap off happens. Rook takes e2 and king takes e2. Dragon to g3 is played, but it's not check, guys, because the f3 knight is in the way. Remember, the dragon moves in a straight line. So it's not check. And maybe black isn't threatening anything yet. But okay, the rook feels uncomfortable. If rook h1, then knight f4 check, and g2 might fall. But you have this rook g1. I just have this feeling.
As well is the other issue.
Yeah, but I just have this feeling if that rook was on c1.
I think Daniel's got to be very happy with this position.
Oh yeah,
compared to where he was.
Definitely. Like I was saying, David, if Daniel maybe had one more tempo and put his rook on c1, it would actually be a game. He would have. Then...
Yeah.
Now,
well, one tempo often makes a big thing, but in this chess even more so.
Yes.
But okay, this is still clearly better for black, because we've seen a dragon is clearly stronger than.
Okay, but the question is how much though?
Yeah, no, that is the. So, I guess he must not go. Well, yeah. The problem is the rook. Has got possibilities when there are pawns on both sides of the board to.
Oh, this is
go
very uncomfortable.
Get those queenside pawns.
I think Craig is just in time here because king d2, knight takes g2, rook g1 skewers, but then dragon f4 check. So Daniel now played this move, king f1, very, very uncomfortable move. It doesn't look good. No, but he didn't want to lose g2.
His rook totally can't do anything. But king okay, how will black make progress, I guess?
Black just says you can't do anything. Black went king f8. And Daniel down to 5 seconds. He needs to make a move.
Yeah. Because Daniel, Craig wants to put his king on d7, I guess, because it excludes any possibility later on of the rook taking the c file and going to get those queenside pawns.
Yes. If that's the...
It's just naturally... yeah, a good option.
And notice something. Okay, he's moving his dragon bishop now. But imagine... the white king cannot escape. The white king cannot move right now because of that dragon bishop.
Yeah, and that means the rook cannot escape either.
Yes. So white probably is thinking of knight h3. That should probably be on his mind. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, things like d4 are going to fall very quickly, probably. Like, if the knight goes to h3, you can go dragon to e2 and take on d4.
On d4, yes. But the problem is when... but when do you take on d4? Because if you take on h3 first, then your dragon could hang. Let's say the dragon e2 check, king e1.
Yeah.
If you take on d4, then the knight's hanging. If you take on h3, then I take your dragon. And Craig is also low on the clock, and he has just played knight e6. I think it's a good sober move, just going back, putting pressure on d4, and white's pieces are not playing. I think that's a great move, knight e6, yeah.
No, this is a game over, I'm afraid, because he's going to get d4, e5, and the tactics of the dragon are not going to go away.
Yeah. I think that was a nice positional display over there, just prophylactically keeping his opponent tied up while
I
improving
think
your
it's an
king.
example of Craig having experience. He knows what endgame positions are playable and what are not.
Yeah. Rook h3 played. The dragon will probably take on e5, but then rook e3 is possible. But even so, now white can't even take the dragon bishop
Yeah, he
because
can't take. He just goes
2
into a
pawns
lost
down.
knight endgame then.
Yeah, 2 pawns down in a knight endgame.
So let's finish this.
Instead, Craig plays dragon to f5. He is playing a bit with his time over there, getting low. But it is 15-second increment, so I guess he knows what he's doing. But Daniel's still making him work for it.
Well, he knows threatening just to go into a winning knight endgame, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes to a3. That's probably the best he can do, but it's not, a6. He's not going to get any squares for that rook. Okay.
So some exchanges happening here. Black has taken on h4. White got this rook d3 and rook takes d5 in. Black is a pawn up. Basically, black has a dragon and a pawn for a rook, which is a considerable advantage.
No, couldn't you just go knight c2 to defend with the e3 check? d5. I'm not sure why.
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps.
But maybe this is good enough.
Okay, and here comes a big moment. The dragon is on e4, hitting the rook on d5, and it's also eyeing the knight on d3. And Daniel was feinting towards knight f4, but then you can even give up the dragon for the rook, and then knight takes d5 and king e6.
Problem. And if he goes rook d6, just knight takes e5, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, so
No, it's practically impossible to play. I realize that when because you just don't know the tactics that well, so you can't play with so little time.
Yes, very difficult, especially if you don't have a dragon bishop. You just have to constantly look for those.
Obviously, it's easier for the one with the dragon. Yeah, for sure.
So knight f4 on the board, and Craig is not interested in transposing yet. He's holding onto his g pawn, and finally g5 played, and it just seems like now if the knight moves, the rook drops for free.
Yeah,
maybe that's even just stronger, just exposing that combination over there. And I think it's over now. After g5, seems like white's gonna lose a piece, and I think it's done.
Yeah, I think he can resign.
Okay,
actually.
I think Daniel resigned. So let's get the players back on. Players, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, epic game over there, guys. Well done, Craig, on your second victory. Daniel, tough luck over there. Yeah, maybe let's see. What was the main problem over there? David, you mentioned that maybe Daniel, you pushed too many pawns in the opening because Craig took advantage of that immediately with dragon h4 check. So maybe the two moves.
Okay. No, I think bishop h4 is what caused the problems. Because to move your king, I mean, I think E and D pawns themselves are fine if you could have castled kingside, but once those, it's almost impossible to get out of. The dragon's just too strong, we saw.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of like a fine line between as much space, which is what I was trying to do, and just overstretching, and I overstepped that definitely. It became very uncomfortable very quickly once the whole queen c8, bishop f5 thing happened.
Yeah.
And then queen takes, after queen takes c1 check, the endgame is just very bad for me, I think.
Yeah, that's very bad. But I saw Craig actually did that bishop h4. I saw in that first tournament already, so he knows that.
Typical tactic nowadays.
Taking a move to weaken the king.
Yes, just a question before we get to Craig. Just a question, Daniel. Did you spot this dragon to g2 check, or did you miss it at first when he played check? Did you maybe think that you could just play g3?
G3. No, I was happy with king f1 at the time, but what I sort of missed was the dragon f5 play, which came very, very quickly.
Okay.
I thought I'd still have time to play like knight f3, chase the bishop away and stuff, but didn't really have a chance.
Okay, and then Craig, what do you think? Where did your opponent go wrong? Because I got a feeling that maybe Daniel got himself out a bit. I got a feeling that h4 was a bit too much because the squares around the king just got worse. Where do you think? What's your thoughts on the game?
Yeah. So yeah, we start. I couldn't stop you from getting that strong center, but then I figured I was going to try and undermine it, getting my knights out early, and then yes, obviously the bishop h4 was the turning point. Yeah. So f4 seems to be like it holds the center together, but your king, I think, king safety
Yeah.
is paramount. And yeah, I kind of managed that. Queen c8 helped a lot,
Yeah.
because then I get a nice file for my queen over there, and that's
I think early on d6 also was something I actually completely missed.
okay.
d6 I didn't see.
Yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
also planning d6. I was actually thinking of doing it earlier, but you put me under pressure early, so I had to go e6 and then d6.
But maybe the move I liked in the opening, instead of bishop or dragon to b3, because I think you give up some options with dragon to b3 of the dragon being on the king side, is maybe just play h4 straight away in that position.
I'm going for h5 immediately.
The dragon's on, the knight's on g6, so to play like alpha zero type of stuff. And
Yeah.
then it takes away, yeah, I mean, keep your f pawn on f2. But there's so many possibilities.
Possibilities,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that would be more consistent with your plan to have space.
Yeah.
You were committed in a way.
But okay, it's a tough game there for Daniel again. But Craig also being consistent in the game, just every once in a while, just continuing slowly pointing out that white did cause a lot of problems for himself there. So well done both of you for giving us a nice game. And another type of end game rise, guys. I'm liking the end games that I'm seeing. So right now, oh yeah, just one more thing here from the chat box. Boomshaka is asking, did Daniel consider artificial castling? Daniel, did you consider maybe king f2 and rook somewhere? Or was there time for that?
I don't think there was time, unfortunately. It definitely was like if I had a few more moves, I'd like to do something like that, but there wasn't really a chance. I think.
Okay.
I think after bishop h4 or dragon h4 check, there wasn't really time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Bishop f5 just came far too quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, after queen c8, I also completely overlooked.
I mean, I wouldn't actually be surprised if, like, after dragon h4, it's winning for black even. I mean, it sounds crazy to say so, but
that has a tactic.
there's so many tactics.
But I'm still putting my money on that h4 move. I'm not sure that h4 was nice. I think you probably could have still gotten something out of it at least. But because
the difficult thing was to sort of unravel there. I didn't have an easy move because there was that. I mean, queen takes c1 check was always looming.
Yeah.
And I didn't see like an easy way to sort of get out of it. I thought like at least with h4 I can try h5 and maybe hit the knight. But I didn't see much else.
Okay, so thanks guys. Yes, so we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break just to arrange us for the next match. Next match is Henry versus Watu for their rematch basically. The first one was a draw, and Craig goes off to a flyer with 2 points. Daniel unfortunately needs to still get off onto the scoreboard. So interesting stuff thus far, and yeah, thanks guys. You guys can take a rest. We will have an hour break as well after the next match, so enjoy, and we will see you a bit later. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Calvin.
Cheers.
Cheers.